Yeah, thank you for coming, and I hope your prayers and your relationship with God is going good. It's the month of the Ramadan, so it's also the moment that we will break the bread and start eating after the fasting today. And I would like to go slowly through a little bit of thoughts and questions that I have been asked also, and I would ask, and to pray together a little bit in this sacred space, and in Farsi, in Persian, this is a meykhane, meykade. Mey means wine, and meykade is a house where we sell it. And this is an exceptionally high spiritual place for the mystics, Muslim mystics in Iran and around. And it was the highest level of an inner architecture that you could spend your time with as a theist, as a believer in God. So it's exactly, I'm following the steps of the old mystic poets that they want to drink, sing, and write in Meykade. The structure of praying also is my question and my interest. What is praying? Am I praying? Are we praying? What does it look like? What does it feel like? The pray is very specific in the elements that they exist in the structure of faith and the religion, because no one can really structure and pragmatically design the prayer. At the end, it's the individual who's going to build it within itself. So this is very interesting. I will come to it, how prayer will play its role and its structure during my story. Praying is coming again in current studies on what is human consciousness, and we are beginning to understand more that this kind of specific human mind activity is shared a lot between different cultures, between different geographies, and surprisingly it has also exceeded itself, which I will come back to. The pray, I would like to differentiate pray to something. You have a seal, you have a purpose, you have a direct point to shoot at with your pray, or a pray that cannot target itself to a specific point. And the Islamic God, the Allah, is also like that. Because traditionally it has been refused to get a name. It has endless names. Like there's also this mystic or secret name of the Allah, which no one knows it apparently. And in school we used to sing the name of the God, and it was super long and it was endless. Sing the names after one another, and there are basically all the adjectives you can imagine, like the good, the big, the etc. And so we are dealing with someone who is refusing to be named, who is rejecting its addressability and it's charging you, challenging you to being able to locate itself. And as a result, deconstructing the prayer itself. The prayer cannot locate God. In Islam, I would say it's impossible from the beginning, or not from the beginning. Later, it became interesting, and I will come to that slowly. And so the nameless or the unnameable God that we are dealing with, and the freedom of this locality. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. كل من The mysterious objectivity of the prophet's body. It's my my investigation or my targeted praying, and how the architecture of value is going to be built by this certain kind of body. And I've also looked through it, what have been experiencing the body of the prophet and the different bodies of the prophet, and how it has to endure or also enjoy certain performances by the God and also by the believers. First, I got interested by the fever and the feverish night and the beginning of the prophetic character of the man with a late morning dream, waking up with sweat in fever. Noah wakes up in fever. Has encountered something in the dream, within the dream, as the dream, and wakes up late in the morning. He's a man who wakes up with a hard-on, with a mission. It's a wet dream, and accepts a certain kind of thing that he assumes it's a call or something. I have been chosen for something. So this fever is being repeatedly and beautifully united by many other thinkers as a moment that real thinking and real communication has happened during this certain kind of state of humans. So the Noah is kind of narrated in this extremely directed project. He now wakes up, he shoots his shuttle in the world, to the world, and now has a purpose. And beautifully, Rilke also follows this kind of bodily construction of the prophet, and in his prophet poem, he pictures the prophet as a volcano that is shooting out melted stones, as the god is putting the stone in, and comes as melted and shoots randomly different to people with different distances. And that's exactly, Rilke is in love with the power of the word, and the God is also creates the logos, the word, through the medium of the body of this tormented prophet, which is going to function as a volcano, as a shooting device, as a huge megaphone. The other one is Pushkin, which as a young man I was interested in taking the task of translating his poem called Prophet again. And this is a little bit different because we are now dealing with Pushkin's poem. I don't know if you have read it. It's beautiful. It's a prophet after it's been chosen and it's short, and he kind of narrates how it happened when it turned to a prophet. So it's become a story of making of a prophet. And he's ambushed by an angel, and his organs are one by one replaced by different things. And he says that, yes, my heart was taken off, instead this was put in my mouth, my eyes, my ears, and each time he acquires a certain ability that can reach beyond his physical possible imagination of what is. He can hear beneath the earth, above, he can see, he can feel things that he hasn't before. And then his tongue is taken out also, and is replaced by a serpent tongue. That's very interesting. And what I'm interested is in the organ enthronement of the prophet, and this full package transformation of one man, apparently good, wandering in a desert, lonely, which is also a precondition of becoming chosen or receiving a call. You need the desert, and we'll come back to it shortly. So, Pushkin prophet is at the end. Hears the voice of the God. Wake up! You're chosen officially. And hears it, and so this change of body is the new body of the prophet. His own. Does it belong to God? Is it? I'm also wondering about the not only as a transformative image, but also what it meant for a kind of for someone who could mistake a prophet for a poet, which in today's term I'm interested. What could that mean? Translation of the. I'm not necessarily connecting Quranic verses to my talk, but we might talk about it and what's the meaning of these verses. But I would like to come back to super important the concept that is going to be the bringing or the gift or the project of the prophet. It's faith, and I'm also curious in what this faith does to the body and to the collective body, and the power of bodies under faith, and how it's being recruited and in regime change projects, not only today, also before that. One of these examples of the power of these bodies is during the Mongol attacks in the 12th century in Palestine. There's a specific thinker, a mullah, let's call Ibn Taymiyyah. He's going to rise, and he's one of the examples that he engaged discursively to wage war against the Mongols, against the slavery, against the brutalization, but the Mongols were themselves Muslims. So he did a lot of intellectual work as well as talking, traveling, and he's a very important figure if you're interested in working on today Islamist activities. Check him out, and we can learn a lot from him, because he's going to be the father of a certain kind of ideology that is its language is being used and kind of loaded into new propagandas or ideologies that we can find them as PDF in ISIS soldiers' inboxes. I'm not joking. He was also very interested in divorce. He was obsessed with divorce. The idea of setalare, dreimal divorce, is actually theorized by him a lot. So he was a theorist of human breakup, and he wrote a lot, and he has a lot of saying today. But he has one sentence which struck me. At some point in a context, in a structure, he just uttered, "I can't conceal my knowledge." I can't conceal my knowledge. Being said that by a theologist. I can't conceal my knowledge of God or religion. This is very interesting because first of all, it's not saying I cannot conceal my ideas, I cannot conceal my opinion, my knowledge. What he knows, what he feels, what he understands as divinity, he's calling it as a knowledge. This is extremely brutal and violent. I see that extremely important, that what becomes as knowledge here and not a grasp or any other kind of understanding. And he says, I can't help it. I can't. My relationship, my knowledge of the divine or the project or the destiny of the Muslims, I can't hide it. I have to. So you can follow his trails on a certain kind of where the revolutionary roots of his thinking coming from. But faith itself. How are you? Are you following? Are you?
Yeah, I can follow.
Okay. You can pause me, ask things like that.
Wenn jemand was trinken will, kann auch was sagen.
Yeah. The faith and what did it mean for the Tanya? Hello. And the faith, I see it as a vector in a mathematical sense. It's a at the end, it's a trajectory. It's somewhere you have been moved to, you have been mobilized to. So you can see the projector, someone's faith. At the end, you have a noised line or a directed or a arbitrary set of movements, and it's something that is. I suspect that it's a way that can help you jump through space, through the holes of or the pits of the doubt. That's what it's constructed for. Helps you to pass this void that the doubts creates. And it belongs, of course, in the realm of metaphysics. And you know, I'm super hard on metaphysics, and that means it's this trajectory is also a space of action. This is nothing innerly or subjective. It's intersubjective. It has to do with without there. It's nothing to do with inside. Which I will come back to that. How this relationship has to be built. I'm talking, of course, about Islamic faith. There's also American Indian faith or Tao or many other kind of religions, which maybe we should also mention some of them right now. If faith belongs to the realm of the metaphysic, that means you're dealing with a chessboard. It's belongs to language. Then we are on a game. And Muhammad, the Prophet of Islam, and which I talked about him before a lot, and I would like to continue on that. How he provided a certain kind of faith. I would like to also look at him a little bit and what the faith meant for him, and how, as a kind of not unlike Jesus, it was kind of an instrument that has extremely precise social value to its people, and brought a group of people to a higher moral value. But that's absolutely not enough for many of us, or also for them, which I will come back to it, why, and how the early Muslims reacted even to the Prophet. The problem was that, first of all, the Quran or the message of the God is the only miracle of the Prophet. So we are dealing with someone that is repeatedly saying that I don't have a miracles. I just have the book. God talked to me, that's it. Deal with it. And the Quran, when we read it, it's also interesting to follow the libido of the Muhammad, and because how the time of the Quran, the surahs and the chapters, how they are changing tone is extremely interesting, because the surahs, when first they were came to Muhammad in Medina, later in Mecca, and first they are the God in the beginning had a Christian and Jewish voice character, and later it becomes more Arabic as we go through the end of the Quran. It's super interesting. Suddenly becomes God changes, almost obsessed about the details of life, but in the beginning it's kind of worship one punct, and this is hell, this is punct, and this is kind of the same almost God. And one of also the interesting things that was into it was the personal life of Muhammad. In my other lecture, I talked about his wife, Khadija, very interesting woman. He was actually the first Muslim before Muhammad could even accept that someone talked to him on a mountain. His wife believed and said, "Hey, push it, man, man up. You are being chosen. Don't play with it. Go for it." And she was older, much older than Muhammad, and fell in love with her, supported her, and grab her up. A very, very important woman. And during her life, when she died, there's also a change in Quran. Very, very also interesting. Because in the beginning, when the Khadija is still alive, she's of course older than Muhammad. In the parasite, we are introduced to Huris, these beautiful young robot women in paradise who are there to pleasure you. They are promised to Muslims as Huris. But later, after Khadija death, when Muhammad has got more wives, more younger wives, we can see that now there's a small change. Now you go to paradise with your wife, and you are there together. And there is the Huris are gone. They are not mentioned. They just kind of left out of the paradise after that. And this is important to get a sense of Muhammad and his body, and where does he listening to, which part of body he's tuned his channel on, his ears, or not only his ears, also he checks it with other parts of his body, and he also has said that multiple times that he's just a man, and he's just a good man, and a good man united with God. But there's a slight change. United with God's will, not with God's substance. This is extremely important, because this is also the same project as the Noah, and we also recognize in the Abrahamic tradition that you have to deal with the Lord's will, but you will never touch. You have nothing to do with this material, with this substance, and this relationship that Muhammad had with the religion he brought, and which for the later Muslims were extremely dry. It was too practical. It demanded that you don't have to think, you don't have to consider, you don't have to go deep into the intellectual process of what is God, what's going on. You just have to follow these words. At namaz, you just have to do the steps, and you will be okay. And after a few centuries, many Muslims, and especially the new converted Muslim, found that it's not enough. It's not enough to have this practice. They wanted to feel. They wanted to feel their religion. And exactly at these moments are the point when the Islamic mystics are going to born. And the first of them, the 2nd century, is actually an Egyptian convert. and he's called Zonun Mesri, Egypt, and Zonun, apparently we cannot really confirm it, that if it was the first Sufi, first mystic, but it's all as we can find. I doubt it. There has to be others from other parts of the earth that he has someone counted. Extremely a traveler and a very smart man. And Zonun wanted to feel God. He didn't care about the practice. He didn't care about anything else. He wanted to feel his damn religion. So he and as a tradition later on, they became not interested in the Quran itself, but on something else. How Muhammad got the call, how he got the vision, how he got the Iqra. It was in the cave, wandering in the desert, the mountain of Sina, in a cave there. So these mystics, they become obsessed with the cave, and they're actually interested what happened in the cave. And the rest doesn't matter. We want to go back to the source. We want to open that channel again. And this is going to give rise to a great passivity in Islam. This is the beginning of passivity in Islamic tradition as a branch, as a mode of thought. And it's going to reject a certain kind of activism that was from the beginning with Muslims and with the Arab tribes, that they had this power, the power of belief and faith with them. And it was first with this kind of mixtures that this kind of passivity is going to rise, and I'm super interested in this because this gave rise again to a certain kind of intellectual process of that moment of pause. Okay, I just want to see what happened here, and this intellectual thinking about the event of the cave and recreating it, finding out, exploring it, and again created a whole new tradition of mystic discourse. A lot of text, a lot of writing. It turned to a contemplation and a structured one and a directed one. So this mystic learned very early to practice the most important thing they had, that was imagination. So that we are dealing with a lot how these people are going to harvest their consciousness very early on, and the dream state, which they will be super open and listening to it. ونفخ في الصور فصعق في السماوات وما في الأرض ونفخ في الصور فصعق في السماوات This is also about the relationship to the God. The whole religious Islam is about your relation to the God. So we are dealing with kind of a relationship, and I was also thinking the whole humanity devoted to one God, because this is not something for granted. And Arabia, they had thousands of different gods. They had different levels of beings that they would react, interact, and it was before Islam was kind of a complex semiotic economy in the desert of Arabia with ghouls, with fairy, with different kind of creatures of the unknown, of the invisible, and Allah and many gods were also part of this network of different beings that plagued, and we can follow their steps in different stories in 1001 Night, in many other places. And I'm wondering what if the Muslim could gear his devotion and his one-to-one relationship, corner or change it a little bit, that something that God becomes something else, or someone else, or an animal. Can the Muslim direct the point of his attention, his love, his worship, change the exact same quality, same devotion to something other than the God? Can have this kind of fundamental relationship with other things. Mystics, also early Muslims, thought about that same question, and they did it basically very early on. And I'd like to trap one of these stories that this one-to-one obsessive and with this love relationship with this absolute being is not broken. It's diverted to other beings, and suddenly it's exploding the world of the dervish who's experiencing it. And this is one of my favorite stories of the mystic poet, the Iranian one, Attar, which I bring him up extensively last time. And Attar has a text called Sheikh San'an, extremely important, one of my favorites. And San'an is a sheikh, it's the name of a dervish, of a man who was living in a kind of society that he's above all the spiritual practice. He's on the top of the pyramid of spirituality in his economy. He has endless students. He is the Satan of the universe, of the praying. So he's at the top. He has karamat, he can do marvels, he has knowledge, and he has what we call ma'rifat, which is a kind of that knowledge that I'm not sure if Ibn Taymiyyah was talking about. But before I go to the San'an story, I have to pause here and talk about a little bit ma'rifat, because I like to divide the faith that was created in this by the mystics early on and developed in this discourse into three, and the mode and the structure and the feeling of this. And the three are ma'rifat, or knowledge. This is the gnosis knowledge, not the scientific knowledge. It's mystic knowledge. The other one is fear, khawf, which was used by Muhammad in his language, in his project, to fear of the judgment day, of hell, basically. That's Muhammad's basic use. And ma'rifat was used by Zurnun a lot. And the third one is love, ishq, which we can see in Rumi, in Maulana. Because I would also understand, because Muhammad is first struck by still the old gods, which are working based on this, based on fear, and the promise, and the erasure of fear at the end. And Zunnun, he got into faith by detachment, not by social project, not by uniting and creating army or war, but for him, the experience of his religion was pure detachment. And for him was this kind of ma'rifat, this irfan, this this knows that he got by this pure detachment. And so even Muhammad, when he goes to the desert, to the mountain, to contemplate, to wander, to be ready to be called by the God, Zannun also rejects that. And he says, the desert is too beautiful, there's too much stuff there, you cannot contemplate. He goes to the cave. As I said, he was into that, and he stayed in the cave the whole time, the whole year. Would come up and do some, perform some marvels and return. Like there are stories, I don't want to get to it. And Rumi, and I would say because he was educated by Shams, he was educated to fight, to the love, to the faith, inner love relationship. So he was disciplined by love in his relationship with Shams. So for him, we can follow the steps of the love in his text and in his project and in his work. So these three divisions, I hope it helps you think about this whole narrative, this whole story, and back to the San'an. San'an is still on the Ma'rifat, is on the knowledge that we don't know if it's like with the Ibn Taymiyyah, that is cannot conceive it, but he's already in a stabilized architecture of value that I mentioned, and he's right at the top. And it's not something, it's not a bad thing. He's not stupidly praying God. He's not following the practice. He has reached high levels, and he can seek, he can meditate, and he can muse on the universe. He has access to the depth of ma'rifat or knowledge. He can see things beyond, but it's not enough. So something very interesting happens, which I call this sabotage of his connection, of his broadband relationship with the Absolute, or with this thing. And he dreams that he's worshipping an idol, and multiple times. He's freaked out by the dream, and he psychoanalyzes himself and realizes, I cannot dream this. It's impossible that my subconsciousness creates this image. It's from somewhere else. He's smart, and he knows what's going on. He has super scan on the different levels of his being. So he suddenly takes out. He goes out, and he goes to Italy, and to I don't know how his navigational divine is working, or was it failing him? We don't know. But anyway, he goes to Rome, and guess what? This is a very beautiful woman, and he realized, okay, that's why I'm here. And this woman is called in the story Majus or Tarsa, and Tarsa is a very active word in Farsi, and it's someone from another religion, and it's not exactly someone from a external or out of even the radar of the Quran. So it's Majus. It's haram. It's bad. It's untouchable. It's taboo. It's killable. So San'an is out there and sees the Tarsa, this beautiful woman, Dokhtar Tarsa, and he let himself completely up to her. And in the story, this lady, Tarsa, is a sexist, is a sexual sadist, and they go through an amazing process of SM, and they do a lot of sadomasochist performances. I'm not joking. Read the story, and he has to learn Quran. He has to dream. He has to go in the mud. He has to become the animal. He has to become the pig, because I'm also interested in the pig a lot. And for me, it's very she wants San'an, this high rank mystic, to become a pig, and had a neckband, and and she plays. They engage in this kind of weird foreplay, which who dares to reject the sexuality of this scene that is happening in Attar poetry? And so Sanan is actually very, I would call him talented, that he's even able to redirect his absolute worshipping love, devotion to something that is completely out of the map, out of his existential universe. And something else happens, which all the students suddenly realize what's going on, and they